When someone asks you what your highest round in zombies is, what do you say? Some may say 32. Some may say 63. Some may say 100. And some may say 255. But I say 5,710. This is the Ultra High Round Strategy Guide for World at War Numa. What do I mean by ultra high rounds? Well, that's just a term I made up. Let me explain. In a traditional game of zombies, the highest possible round that can be achieved is around 255. But there are 3 maps in particular where you can go beyond round 255, and these rounds are what I define as the ultra high rounds. Those 3 maps are Nocturne Toten, Verrucht, and Numa on Call of Duty World at War. The first 3 maps in the franchise, definitely not a coincidence. Using this knowledge, I was able to get all the way to around 5,710 on Numa. I am 6th in the world for the highest round in zombies history. No, it's not easy being a top of the line player as me. Getting to this kind of a round takes serious skill. But I am truly one of the greatest to ever play the game of zombies. So how do I do this? So in these maps, there's only 24 zombies that spawn around, and from round 208 and on, half the rounds are insta-kill rounds. So for the purpose of this guide, one might ask, what makes Numa so special compared to Nocturne Toten or Verrucht? Well, on Nocturne Toten, there isn't any wonder weapon with infinite damage, so the round's going to be a bit of a drag. On Verrucht, there is a trap, but it has such a narrow map design that it's still very difficult to stay alive. On Numa, however, well, you got traps. You also got a wonder weapon that deals infinite damage. You never have to worry about ammo because you got dog rounds every 4 to 5 rounds, which grant you max ammos. Yeah, it's broken. Guys, I've got a confession to make. I'm not that good at zombies. You see, the truth is, I just wanted you guys to be impressed with me. I've just always wanted something to be the best at, be one of the best at, be great at. I thought this was it. Getting to this kind of a round takes serious skill. Yeah, I lied. Getting to a high round on Numa is very, very easy. So before we get into this guide, there's a few things you'll need for this run. First of all, you need Call of Duty World at War for either PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. And you have to have World at War because it doesn't work on the Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 3 version of Numa. And once you have that, you gotta purchase DLC Pack 2, which is the one with Numa. And just to clarify, this only works on solo. You can't do it with other people as well in the game. As for within the run, the weapons you want to have are the Wunderwaffe and the PPSH. The Wunderwaffe is a must as it will carry you to high rounds with its infinite damage. The PPSH is not a necessity, but I'd highly recommend it as your second weapon for insta-kill rounds. As for perks, there's 4 perks on the map. There's Quick Revive, Jug, Speed Cola, and Double Tap. Since this is World at War, Mule Kick is not on this map. Out of those 4, you only need Jug and Speed Cola. Double Tap and Quick Revive aren't necessary. Double Tap lets you shoot faster, but that's it. Doesn't really help. And Quick Revive does absolutely nothing in World at War as it does in other games. Bouncing Betties are also something that can be really useful, but aren't completely necessary. And also, if you do go for the world record, as I have, do not do this on PC. The reason why is because each of these platforms have an in-game timer to where the game will reset. And the reset timer for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 is much longer than that of PC. As an example, Private Asskick used PC and it got to 5,375 before the game reset. The longest known game for console, however, is Instakiller at about 88 hours. No one has ever gotten this reset on console, but it is estimated to be about 100 hours, compared to PC's approximate 50 hours. When I say 100 hours and 50 hours, this just means the time that you're playing the game, so pausing the game does not have an effect in this. So if you do go for the world record, do it on console. And one last thing, also, if you do plan on going for the world record, I would highly recommend you get one of these backup battery power surges. This way, if the power goes out temporarily, you can still keep your game on for a couple more hours at least. So I'd highly recommend getting one of these just as a safety precaution. You could probably get one for about $50 at Best Buy. But now, onto the guide. Phase 1. This ranges from the beginning of the game when you're trying to get set up to about round 60. Now, why round 60? Well, that's just an approximation for the round where zombie spawn patterns start to become optimal for the real Flogger strat. So first off, I'm going to say that if you already know how to get to round 60 on your own, then you really don't need to watch this part of the video, and you can just skip to phase 2. This is just for those of you who want to learn how to get set up on the map, because I have had some people request this from me. There are many ways to get set up on this map, but the two ways I'm going to show you are the common room strat and the early Flogger strat. Except the early Flogger strat is just a complicated version of the strat you'll be running for about the entire game, so I'm not going to go over it until later in the video, because I want to explain that stuff first. But again, if you do have your own way of getting set up, it really doesn't matter as long as you find what works best for you. Alright, so let's take it from the top right when you start the game. Since it is the beginning of the game, and I assume most of you know how to not die in the first few rounds, I'll just skip to where you are about to actually leave the starting room. You want to open this door here, not this door. The reason being is because they both lead to the exact same place, but by keeping this door closed, you can use this area as a temporary camping spot. The box is right here as well, but I'd recommend getting the Thompson first just to ensure that you have a good weapon to begin with. After that, I'd recommend getting Bouncing Betties to place right back here for each round. This is in preparation for dog rounds when you'll likely not have perks, and they can be a complete lifesaver when you're getting overrun by zombies. And another great thing about this spot is that if you do get overrun, you always have this door to open as an escape. From here, you can hit the box if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it yet because you don't need to. If you go for headshots, you can survive until at least round 12 here just with the Thompson. And even if you do get lucky with getting a Wonder Waff early, it's very easy to kill yourself when you don't have Jug. In the meantime, save up your points for perks. So for getting perks, there's 4 different areas you can go to get a perk. There's the comm room, doctor's quarters, storage, and the fishing hut. Whichever of the 4 areas you go, you have to pay 1,000 points for the area and another 750 points for the hut, and then you'll receive a random perk. It doesn't really matter what order you open the huts in, as long as you save this one in the fishing hut for last. This is because you'll be spending all your later rounds in this area, and there is some slight benefit to keeping this door closed the whole game if you can, as I'll explain later. In the meantime, when you have anywhere over 4,250 points, you can save a crawler and open the huts to storage or doctor's quarters. The reason I say 4,250 points specifically is because it's 1,000 points for the area, 750 for the hut, then 2,500 if it's Jug. If it's Speed Cola, you don't need to buy it right away, but just know it's there. In a perfect ideal world, you'll get Jug and Speed Cola in these 2 huts, the storage and the doctor's quarters. And once you have Jug and Speed Cola, you don't need to open any more huts unless the box teleports there. Because like I said earlier, double tap and quick revive are not worth it. Except the probability of getting both Jug and Speed Cola in these 2 huts is only 1 in 6. So more likely than not, you're going to need to open another hut. If this happens, then try the common room one next. Except this is where you're camping, so this could be a little bit of a dicey situation. If you do have Jug, then don't worry too much, just try to keep camping here until the zombies overrun you. However, if you don't have Jug, it's basically the same approach, except just be a little more careful. Or once you get 6,000 points, just open this door and the next door, see if you get Jug. And if you don't get Jug, then go to the fishing hut and then open the 2 doors there. The reason I say 6,000 is because it's 1,000 for the door, 750 for the hut, and if you don't get Jug, it's another 1,000, another 750, then when it's Jug, get 2,500 there. Alright, so now that you got your perks, now you just keep hitting the box until you get the Wonder Waff and the PPSH. Now the box can be really stubborn sometimes, and it's super annoying. But at this stage in the game, it's just important that you get the Wonder Waff. If you don't get the PPSH right away, that's okay because you don't need it until phase 3. But once you got the PPSH and the Wonder Waff, you don't need to use the box for the rest of the game. So now assuming that you've at least got the Wonder Waff, let's move on to the actual common room strategy. First, once you have this area open, you also want to go back and open this door now just to speed things up. Otherwise, the zombies that come from spawn will go all the way around the other way, and that just takes a lot longer. Start each round here. Give the zombies a few moments to spawn in. Then cross over to the swamp here. But when you do this, make sure you're on the outside part of the swamp near the fence because the swamp isn't as deep here, allowing you to maneuver a bit faster by jumping. Alright, then from here, you have options. You can either cut through the swamp like this, stay on the wood path, or come outside here. It all just depends on where the zombies are coming from, and a lot of it is just using your intuition. Now, if you did get lucky with perks and you got Speed Cola and Jug in the first 2 doors, then this door should be closed. And if this door remains closed, it makes things slightly easier because then zombies aren't spawning from here. If not, then you gotta be a little bit more wary. But if you see a zombie approaching you, and you think there's any chance at all that you might get trapped, just use the Wonder Waff. A common mistake I always see people make, and even I used to make myself too, is being too conservative with Wonder Waff ammo. Remember, ammo doesn't matter that much, since you have dog rounds every 4 to 5 rounds to give you max ammos. And if you are in an ammo crisis, you just bring the zombies over here to use the Flogger. So just use the Wonder Waff to keep yourself safe. Anyways, after this part of the loop, you can either continue forward on the wooden path, or you could cut back here, depending on where the zombies are. Then the last part of this loop is this little straightaway, and sometimes there'll be zombies running down it, and sometimes there won't be, and if there is, you can either avoid them or use your Wonder Waff. Then from here, you've completed the loop, then you just gotta keep doing it until all the zombies are spawned in, and then usually where I like to kill the zombies is right here. And with the Wonder Waff, you can only kill 10 zombies per shot, so if you have all 24 zombies in, it'll take 3 shots to kill the whole horde. And then in between, you also have dog rounds. Now this is a terrible area to be for a dog round because of the swamp. So when the dog round starts, come over here toward the Flogger. Now because there's a lot to say about dog rounds, I actually saved it for its own segment later on in the video, so I'll go over it later. So once you repeat this strategy until about round 60, then you're ready for phase 2. This is the Flogger strat. This is where it really begins, except no insta-kill rounds. You gotta start the round in this area, and to be more precise, you have to be behind this sandbag when the round starts. I personally like to start my rounds kind of more toward this bridge, but you could go as close to this sandbag as you'd like, as long as you're behind it by the time the round starts. This is because this is the boundary where, when you're in this area, the zombies will only spawn in the fishing hut area where you are, and there's one barrier right next to the Flogger. It will not spawn anywhere else on the map. If you cross this sandbag though, then zombies will be spawning in the cabin and all over the place, and it just becomes a mess. And at that point the strategy just doesn't work. With this in mind, once the round starts, you'd run over to the Flogger and use it. This will kill every zombie spawned into the map except for the ones in this barrier. And for these, just use your Wonder Waff and then rebuild the barrier. Then you can just sit back, relax, and watch the zombies get flogged. Once the round's over, you don't even need to wait for the Flogger to finish. You can just run through it. One thing you gotta be super careful of is to make sure there are no zombies near the Flogger when you run through it. If you run through the Flogger the same time a zombie does, this happens. On to the next round. So you just use the Flogger, and now the Flogger needs to cool, so you can't use it this round. And there's no chance of an insta-kill round either, so what do? First, you run over here and kill the zombies in the barrier like last time. Then you come out here and just shoot the zombies with your Wonder Waff. And if you get pushed back, you can always go into this room or into this room. You got a lot of space to move. The other thing you can do is you can also train the zombies around like this, except it's a lot slower. But once you end the round, it'll kill enough time for the Flogger to be recharged again, unless you do it too fast. Overall, I would still recommend standing out here near the Flogger and killing the zombies that approach you. Then you basically just repeat this over and over and over again with the dogs sprinkled in between. But like I said, the dog rounds are such a big part of the run that I saved an entire segment for it later in the video. One cool thing about the Flogger is that you can actually get drops from it. Since this is World at War, there's only 4 possible drops you can get, which are the max ammo, the nuke, the double points, and the insta-kill. For the zombie rounds themselves, the double points is completely useless, and the max ammo is somewhat useless since you already get it from dog rounds. So the only ones that are really worth your time are the nuke and the insta-kill. Most likely when you get a drop, it'll be from the Flogger over here, or it might be from a zombie over here. In most cases, you should let the insta-kill be, go back behind the sandbag, wait for the round to start, then once it starts, then go over and grab the insta-kill. I say do this in most cases and not all cases because sometimes the insta-kill won't be available for that long, so at that point you just get the insta-kill right before it's about to go away and then go behind the sandbag to get the good spawns. And then you just try to use the insta-kill as much as you can the next round. But now let's talk about the nukes, and these nukes are the absolute best things you can get for zombie rounds. You can literally end an entire round with a nuke at this stage of the game. When you see a nuke, it doesn't really matter where you are, it's okay to just stand around it if you know it won't go away by the time the next round starts. All you've got to really do is not grab it too early. And for this, you just gotta wait for the magic sound. Usually in the round changing music, all the zombies are spawned into the map after the little guitar string part of the song.
Ammo, now. I'm gonna need a clip soon.
As long as you grab it anytime after that sound, you should be good to go. But be careful though, just because you get the nuke, doesn't mean you're necessarily safe.
It's been a good time. Yeah, exactly, Lou. It's illegal to buy and or sell non-prescription contacts that cost.
In World at War, even after you get the nuke, zombies can still attack you, so make sure you're still paying attention after you get the nuke. But yes, that is basically the strategy for Phase 2. Also, another thing I want to mention is that I know some of you will be trying this strategy and saying,
okay, but I'm starting my rounds all the way back here. And when I run over to kill these zombies next to the barriers, there are still zombies spawning from behind me, like from the cabin. Like, that's such a joke.
This used to also happen to me sometimes as well. The reason for this is because you're leaving your spot too early. It's the exact same thing with the round changing music with the nuke. As long as you're behind the sandbag when the little guitar string of the round changing music is going, you should be good to go. But if you cross this too early before that guitar string, then you might have some zombies spawning from the cabin. Because in that interval of time, the zombies are spawning according to where your position is on the map. You want to make sure your position is behind that sandbag when the zombies are still spawning in. So, I did mention in Phase 1 that I recommend keeping this door closed if you can, and here's why. It is a very minimal benefit, but if for some reason you end up back in this area before the start of a round, like maybe you're going for a drop and you're not able to get it, like that's the scenario where this would happen, then you can still run over to the Flogger and use it, and not have to wait for zombies from the hut to come, because if you do open that door, zombies will spawn from that hut if you are in that area, and it takes a long time for them to actually get to you. And by that time, the Flogger could already be done with its cycle, so it wouldn't kill them. Or there might be a drop that a zombie drops very early on in the round, and then because the zombies are taking so long, it won't really be of use the next round because it'll already be gone. So it is worth keeping this door closed if you can, but it is a very minimal benefit. So after repeating all of this, it's time for Phase 3. Phase 3, this is the rest of your run, the rest of your life. This is where the run really begins. So, what's different? Well, it's the exact same thing as Phase 2, but half the rounds are insta-kill rounds. Now before I have people correcting me on when I say the insta-kill rounds, it's not technically insta-kill rounds as we think of insta-kill as being insta-kill, but it's really just that these zombies are reset to round 1 health. So the strategy is quite simple. Use the PPSH on insta-kill rounds. Use the Flogger when it's not an insta-kill round. And when the Flogger's cooling, use the Wonder Waff. It's always best to know whether or not it's going to be an insta-kill round so that you can react in time to use the Flogger. So for this reason, use grenades at the beginning of each round. Now to some of you this might sound kind of weird, but you see, here's the way the points work in zombies. If you damage a zombie without killing it, you get 10 points. But when you kill a zombie, you get 50 points. So when you throw a grenade at the beginning of each round, watch your points. If there's 50s, it's an insta-kill round, because only those zombies are going to die to a grenade. If it's 10s, it means they're really powerful zombies and they're not going to die to that grenade, so it means it's not an insta-kill round. And I'd say to throw 2 grenades. I do 1 on each side, but it really doesn't matter as long as you throw them in an area where it's likely to make contact. But then once you throw those grenades and you know whether or not it's an insta-kill round, you can react accordingly to where if it's not an insta-kill round, use the Flogger. If it is an insta-kill round, don't use the Flogger and use the PPSH. So it is about 50-50 split between rounds that are and aren't an insta-kill round beyond this point. Now is there a pattern before the round even starts to tell whether or not it's going to be an insta-kill round? Kinda not. The reason I say this is because it's random for the most part. The only thing that kills the whole random part is that there can never be 3 insta-kill rounds or 3 non-insta-kill rounds in a row. For example, let's say I get an insta-kill round initially. Then the next round could be either an insta-kill round or a non-insta-kill round. Now let's say it's also an insta-kill round. Then the next round must be a non-insta-kill round. It's impossible for it to be insta-kill. And this works the exact same way all around, so if the first 2 rounds were non-insta-kill, the next one has to be insta-kill. Also, the dog rounds do not disrupt the order. So let's take our same example again of the first 2 rounds being insta-kill rounds. Then let's say a dog round comes after that. Then it still holds that the round after that dog round will be a non-insta-kill round. Again, it works the same way the other way around. That's all there really is to say about phase 3. Now remember in phase 1 when I said there is the early Flogger strat, but I didn't want to explain it until I actually explained the actual Flogger strat because it's just a more complicated version of it. In my streams I haven't been using this strat, but in getting the gameplay for this video and practicing more, this has been the strat I've been using more often. So for starting off, I do the exact same things I do for the comm room strat where I camp behind this door, but the only difference is instead of training in the comm room, I obviously come out here toward the Flogger. Now this is like the awkward puberty phase of this whole Flogger strat, because the zombies are spawning in super slow, so you can't really do the full strat, but you can kind of do it in a way. So to do this, you want to start behind this sandbag, and then once the round starts, activate the Flogger, and just continue training here. And while you're training here, you want to be behind the sandbag still, because you don't want zombies coming from inside the cabin, because sometimes it takes them too long to get to you, the Flogger won't still be going on anymore. And one thing I do want to say is while you're training here, you do not want your train to build up. I know that usually in zombies, you want to get all 20 of your zombies spawned into the map at once to kill them all with your thunder gun or wherever you have, but this is not one of those cases. Because first of all, the Wunderwaffe can only kill a maximum of 10 zombies at a time. And also, if you're trying to get out of a sticky situation, and you shoot your Wunderwaffe, it's kind of hard to see which zombies are dying, which ones aren't. And it's still easy to get trapped that way. So once you see a healthy amount of zombies, you just kill them. And I define a healthy amount of zombies to be anything between 4 to 10 zombies. And then in non-Flogger rounds, it's basically the same thing, except then you just have zombies coming from this direction, and it's okay. As long as you just make sure to kill a healthy amount of zombies, you'll be fine. And then once you get to about round 30, things change a little bit. Zombies start spawning a little bit faster than they were. So now what you do is when the round starts, just stay in this area for a couple seconds. Just maybe train a couple zombies, just stay in this area, and then after a few seconds have passed, use the Flogger, stay in this area, kill the zombies in the barrier, and at this point the strategy is actually pretty easy. And for those of you who watched phase 1 of this video, I'd recommend about this time in the game you come over here and then just utilize this strat, because it really isn't that hard. All you're doing is just waiting a little bit longer and then using the Flogger. And now it's time to talk about the dogs. Oh boy. If anything's gonna kill you in this entire run, it's most likely gonna be the dogs, because they are relentless in this game. It's not even that they're super hard, but if you want to get the world record, you have to go at least a bare minimum of 1,814 dog rounds without dying, which is not an easy task. I mean, think about this. Suppose I have a 99.9% chance of beating a dog round. So basically about a 1 in 1,000 probability of dying to the dogs. Then the chances of getting the world record, assuming the dogs is the only way I die, is less than 16.3%. And that's pretty low. Many people in the leaderboards, including myself, died to the dogs. There's no way to guarantee survival, but I do have many tips to increase your chances. So here's the strat. I always start right in front of the Flogger here, so I'm trying to manipulate the dogs to spawn kinda in this cabin area and not over by the swamp area. Then if I'm able to control the dogs to spawn in these areas, I come out here and I try to kill both dogs at once. Then once you kill those dogs, you run back here, try to manipulate the spawns to both spawn in this area. It doesn't always work, but it makes your chances a lot better. Then sometimes when it doesn't work, you get one dog spawning in this area near the cabin, then one dog spawning out here. And when this happens, you can either just avoid the dog and then gather them up, or you can just kill the dog that's coming at you, if they're far away enough. Because sometimes it's not worth waiting for both dogs to get together. You just kind of want to kill one dog right there. Except before making this kind of decision to kill a singular dog, you always want to know where both dogs are located so you don't get trapped from behind. So I have mentioned a few times already of gathering the dogs, and to do this, you've got to use what I like to call the stall method. The stall is when you inch close to a dog and then back away at the right timing to keep them in place and to keep yourself from getting hit. This gives you separation from the dog, but also allows another dog to catch up as well so you can kill them both at once. This is really important because one thing you never want to do in a dog round is zap yourself by shooting a dog at point blank range. If you have dogs that are somewhat close to you, you don't want to shoot directly at them, but you want to shoot slightly to the side of them to avoid zapping yourself. The stall method takes some practice and it isn't something that I can pull off every time. Another technique that can be utilized is what's commonly known as the YY. This is the quick reload. In World at War, you can't sprint and reload at the same time, and the Wonder Off takes years to reload. So when you're in a dire situation and you need to reload, you wait until your character is putting in the 3 little light bulbs, then double tap the change button's weapon. So this is either triangle on PlayStation or Y on Xbox, hence why it's called YY. By doing this YY tactic, you can literally save over a second of your reload. Because without doing this, you see your ammo on the bottom right, your stock is filled, but you still have to wait for your character to animate you're turning on the Wonder Waff, and that just takes too long. Or if you just do the YY tactic, once those things are filled in, do YY and you're ready to go. One thing I also do want to warn is that sometimes the dogs will not spawn in the little electric portal like they're supposed to. They'll even spawn behind you, which freaks me out every time. Also, before you try it, the Flogger does not work on the dogs. They'll go right through it unfazed. However, the electric trap does work against the dogs, but it isn't worth using because of its location and the fact that once you actually kill the dogs, you're left in a very miserable position. This is because the hut is a very dangerous place, and right outside of it is too. In fact, you should never cross this bridge here unless you have absolutely no other choice. The bridge is super narrow, so you can barely juke the dogs. If you get surrounded here, you're basically done for. If you cross the bridge to this area, you are still likely done for depending on where the dogs spawn. And one thing I cannot reiterate anymore is never go in the swamp. So because of this, one thing you should do is place down bouncing betties right here on the bridge area before each dog round, because you'll have those rare occasions where you're forced into this area. This is very important because this is basically how I died in my round 5710 run. Now you see I did break my rule of never going into the swamp, but at this point, I didn't really know what else to do. I was thinking that maybe I could quickly run over to this island over here, which was wrong. But I was surrounded to either go into the swamp or just get hit by the dogs, kind of like a walk the plank thing in those pirate movies. So yeah, at that point I was kind of done for. Also, I just want to say that it's a common misconception, mostly by myself, that using bouncing betties make your game crash. This is what I thought, but after looking at the world record holder Instakiller's gameplay, where he got to round 9072, he used bouncing betties throughout his entire run. And did his game ever crash? No. He died. He didn't crash. But my theory is that it's okay to use bouncing betties without worrying about the game crashing, but it's only when there's a bunch of bouncing betties spawned in that it could be an issue. In a perfect world, the best thing that can be blessed upon you is getting an insta-kill on a dog round. When this happens, all you have to do is bring out the PPSH and mow down the dogs. It's super satisfying. Another thing I do want to mention is that you can down from an apparent 1 or 2 hit by dogs, as Santa's Bananas did here. Now most people would just attest this to the game being super glitchy, which is true, but is not the case here. The reason this happens is because World at War does a very poor job at portraying how much health you have. After you get hit, the redness of the screen will go away before the actual damage does. So even when your screen is clear from the redness, you've still got to wait a little bit more before the actual damage goes away. So if you get red screened or double hit, I suggest running away not only until the screen is cleared, but for a few seconds more beyond that. The health portrayal in this game is super deceiving, so you should always play it safe. One last thing I want to point out about dogs is that sometimes dogs will not drop a max ammo. This happens, don't panic. Every time this has ever happened to me, one of the first few zombies you kill the next round will drop a max ammo. So when you start the round, I wouldn't throw grenades in this direction, because if it's an insta-kill round, you get a max ammo in an unideal spot and you possibly won't reach it unless you save a zombie or you get it super quickly before the next round starts. If it isn't an insta-kill round, then you'll get it once the Flogger kills a couple zombies. So that is it for the dog rounds. It isn't too bad, but just takes consistency to get the world record. Numa is a special map unlike any other. Next time you play Numa, ask yourself, how high can you go? Try and see how high of a round you can get to. Zombies may be endless, but Numa is limitless, which is why it is my favorite map in Call of Duty Zombies. Thank you guys for watching this video. I put a lot of really hard work into this, so a like would be well appreciated, and also it would boost the ratings of this video so that more people can see it and learn to appreciate this map the way I have. In fact, I'll be going for my own world record attempt a few days after this video is uploaded. So if you're watching this the week this is uploaded, it's going to be December 20th of 2019, but if you're watching this way in the future, then either I'm the world record holder now and I am top of the world, or I choked and no one knows who I am. But if that's what you're into, subscribe to my channel and put on notifications. Or you could also follow me on Twitch at Claystar with 2 R's, because I'm streaming on both YouTube and Twitch at the same time. And if you want to see what I'm up to, follow me on Twitter at the Claystar. And that would all be well appreciated. So with that, I'll see you then.